I have been pleasantly surprised by the number of people who have contacted me and said, Claire, I love your videos on Peru. I would be really interested in moving to Peru, but I have no idea how I would go about obtaining residency in a place like Peru. Can you please share with us how to obtain a residency visa in Peru and what are the financial requirements? So in this video, I'm sharing with you the top 3 visa options that I know about that have actually been successfully used by people from the United States, Canada, and Europe. But before I get started, I want to make sure that I define what I mean by residency for those who are not familiar with the concept. So a residency visa can simply be defined as a permit that allows you to legally stay in a country for an extended period of time as long as you adhere to certain requirements. So it's important to note that although a residency visa can sometimes lead to citizenship, it shouldn't be confused with obtaining your citizenship in a particular country. So with that being said, let's jump right into option number 1. So the most popular visa option right now, as well as the one that is most commonly used by those coming from the United States, is called the rentista visa. Now, this visa has very simple requirements. In order to qualify for this particular visa, you need to be able to demonstrate that you are earning at least 1,000 USD every single month. And it's important to note that if you have children that are coming with you to Peru, you need to be able to prove an additional $500 a month for each child that you are bringing. So if you're bringing one child, you need to be able to prove that you bring in at least $1,500 per month USD. The cool thing about this visa is it does not have to be renewed annually, and expats who obtain this visa are not required to pay the annual taxes that are required by migrants who are coming into Peru on a different visa. It is also important to note that if you obtain the rentista visa as a retiree, you will not be required to pay taxes on the pension that you receive from the United States. So that's a very important thing to note. So this visa is very important to people for tax purposes because it allows you to keep more of your money from the United States in your pockets during your time in Peru. The second most popular visa right now in 2025 that I've seen many American expats get is called the work visa. Now, the work visa is different from the rentista visa because it has the work element. And there are 2 specific options that are offered by the embassy here in Peru that will allow you to obtain the work visa. The first option is setting up your own business. For example, if you were to come to Peru and set up an English learning institute in your own name with a few employees, you would qualify for the work visa. At the same time, if you were to come to Peru and get a job teaching English at a Peruvian company that pays you, you would also qualify for the same work visa. It just depends on what your particular wants, needs, and desires are. So the financial requirements that go along with obtaining this work visa are very straightforward. What you will need to do is, if you have opted for the route of setting up your own business in Peru, you will need to prove that that business earns at least $15,000 USD annually per year. And you will need to be able to provide bank statements from that particular business to the Peruvian authorities. Now, you will not need to transfer that $15,000 annually into Peru. You can keep that money in your US bank account, but you will need to provide bank statements from a credible bank showing that you are earning $15,000 USD minimum. Now, keep in mind, with the work visa option, there is a tax requirement. So you will be taxed on the money that you are earning as a business owner or as an independent worker in Peru. So the third option that I would like to share that a lot of people from the United States have actually used successfully is called the investment visa or the investor visa. This visa has pretty straightforward requirements, and it was designed for people who absolutely know that when they come to Peru, they are here to buy buildings, they are here to buy property, they are here to buy houses and condos. So you are eligible for this particular investor visa if you can prove that you are going to make an investment of at least 154,000 USD on a purchase. So let's say that there's an apartment in Miraflores that you want to buy and it costs $250,000. The purchase of that condo alone would qualify you for the investor visa, and you would not have to provide any other financial documents to the embassy when you go to apply or obtain your residency visa. Now, the really cool thing about all three of these visa options is that after 3 years of holding these particular visas, you will be eligible to apply for permanent residency, which means you can stay in Peru indefinitely. Now, there are some requirements that are associated with this that I want to share with you. The first one is you need to physically be in Peru for at least 6 months out of the year for 3 consecutive years. You can't just come to Peru, apply for these visas, and go back and live in the United States for 12 months out of the year. It doesn't work like that. You need to be able to be here for 6 months out of the year. And you need to be able to do this for 3 consecutive years. Now, some people find that easy, some people find that hard, but please do keep in mind that this is a requirement. So think about this before you make your visa application. It's also important to note that your residency status starts after your visa is actually approved, not when you first arrive in Peru. So there are a number of people who have been in Peru on a tourist visa for a good amount of time, but that time will not count to qualifying them for eventual permanent residence. Keep that in mind if you plan on applying for a visa. The final thing that I want to explain about these particular visa options is that you will need to eventually show that you have true ties to the country. So they usually examine things like, do you have a local bank account? Do you own property in Peru? Have you obtained a driver's license in Peru? Do you speak the language? Are you familiar with Peruvian culture? Now, these things are taken into account after that 3-year period where the people at the embassy will decide whether or not to issue you your permanent residency in Peru. So that pretty much sums up the 3 specific visa options that I know to be viable here in 2025. If you're living here in Peru and you've obtained a visa, please feel free to leave your comment down below and let us know which visa you obtained. And before you go, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. And I look forward to seeing you next week in my next video. Ciao.